operators and shipmasters will be able to plan voyages through the Torres Strait up to 12 months prior to their arrival in the Torres Strait. And this allows ship managers or operators sitting in some part of the world to plan their voyages through the Torres Strait by exploring what-if scenarios. So, for example, a shipmaster could say, I want to take my ship through the Torres Strait on this day of the month. What is the deepest draft I can take through? Or conversely, here is the deepest draft that I have. What dates can I get through the Torres Strait? The system will take into account predicted tides, current, the ship particulars as known, speed, and predicted response to waves. So the ship loads and sets sails towards the Torres Strait, and as soon as the ship makes contact with the pilotage provider, stage 2 commences. The pilotage provider is notified of a vessel's intention to transit. When coming in from the west, typically 4 to 5 days out, and when coming in from the southeast, a bit shorter time frame. The pilotage provider then prepares a transit plan. And what does it contain? Within a given tidal window, start and finish times for the transit through the region, the times to make good at predefined waypoints within the Torres Strait, and the speeds to make good, and the net underkeel clearance along the route with the point of the minimum underkeel as well. Stage 3 commences once the vessel enters the UKCM area, and that's the area that you see in the middle of the screen boxed. In the west, it starts off at the pilot boarding ground off Booby Island, and in the east it finishes up at Twin Island. And it takes into account the passages I mentioned earlier, Varzim, Gannet, and the Prince of Wales Channel. In the third stage, I mentioned that the vessel's in the area and the pilot's on board. The pilot has real-time access to the UKCM system and can amend the transit plan as the vessel progresses. Or, if he needs to change the transit plan, for example, if the vessel has stopped or anchored. The UKCM system will monitor the vessel's transit against the plan using AIS positional information. And the coastal VTS in the region, which is Reef VTS, will provide an information service to pilots when prompted by the system. We'll look at that a bit later. So that's the operational model in a nutshell. What is it that we expect the UKCM system to do? The system will carry out 4 main functions. Firstly, the management of users. Only authorized users will be allowed to access the system. So it's the entire management of usernames, passwords, levels of access, etc. The system will also maintain an up-to-date database of vessels, including their particulars, so that the UKC component can calculate, UKC calculations can be done for them. The system will also have the ability to create, update, and search for voyage plans and transit plans. The system will have a number of supporting or ancillary functions that it will do to support the main business requirements. And they are data validation. The system needs to work with valid data, and there's some clever smarts in the system that will ensure that invalid data is not accepted. Business messages, for example, warnings and alarm messages to Reef VTS that a vessel is either going too slow or too fast in relation to its transit plan. System monitoring and reporting on the health of the comms links, sensor inputs, hardware and software, standard and generic reports. Security is fundamental for system integrity and for the confidence of the user community. Therefore, the management of user accounts, data access, etc. The system would also have the ability to import ship, metocean, depth and AIS data, and to export voyage plans and transit plans. And of course, with a comprehensive online help ability. What goes into the system? near real-time metocean data, tidal heights and stream every 6 minutes, wave data from a wave rider buoy every 30 minutes, and wind and barometric pressure. Vessel details, both vessel particulars and the stability condition, stability data. Depth or bathymetric data from the Australian Hydrographic Service, and positional information using AIS as the primary source, and the planned speed of the vessel through the water. Those are the inputs required by the system. What will it churn out? The earliest and the latest commencement times for the vessel to transit within a tidal window, times at which to pass certain waypoints, and speeds to be made good between those waypoints. A UKC profile for the passage for a particular commencement time. As I mentioned earlier, the position and time of the minimum under-keel clearance. As AMSA sets about implementing this in the Torres Strait, here are some of the main tasks that we have to complete. Firstly, the duplication of metocean sensors. AMSA has completed duplication of 5 tide gauges and 1 wave rider buoy this month. This duplication offers redundancy and allows for a slight reduction in the level of conservatism in the calculations. As far as legislation, this will be amended to require pilots and pilot providers to use the system when piloting vessels of 8 meters or greater in draft. Standard operating procedures will need to be developed to ensure that the role and the obligation of coastal pilots, pilotage providers, Reef VTS and AMSA are agreed and understood by all. Once the system is configured and delivered to AMSA, an independent third party will carry out validation of the system. We're already in dialogue with the Australian Hydrographic Service to chalk out a regime of periodic resurveys, because in the Vazon Passage there are shifting sand waves and they have seasonal patterns. We need to get a handle on all of this to make sure that the depth information is as accurate and as reliable as we can for the system's calculations. A communication plan is required to inform and educate the entire user community, particularly as new terms such as static UKC and net UKC are involved. So this will be an exercise in itself. So in closing, the waters of the Torres Strait are hazardous to shipping. The vulnerability of the environment to pollution damage and the reliance of the indigenous people upon that environment make the Torres Strait an area of great concern in the context of maritime safety. Over the years, Australia has put in several measures with the twin objectives of enhancing the safety of navigation and protection of the sensitive marine environment. AMSA expects that the UKCM system will permit deep draft vessels to transit the Torres Strait more safely and efficiently. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.